let's introduce you to the wheel. This wheel is named Kathy. There's a C on it. No, it's not named Kathy. Okay, these are Brent C wheels. They're really good wheels. They're really durable, and they're. I've used a bunch of different wheels. These just have a better feel to them than most wheels in the middle and lower end of things. So we're going to start off by cleaning the wheel, and I'm going to clean it mostly. Last time we didn't clean because I didn't teach you how. So the first rule of cleaning is if it's really wet in there, you go over and you grab a big sponge and you come in and you soak some of that water up. Okay? If you were just to take these splash pans off, it's going to spill everywhere. Mine's not really wet, it's just chunky. So I'm going to first take out my sponges. I push down, there's little tabs, you push down and you push that away. You see how that's really full. We're going to set this on top. Oh, super important. I'm going to turn my wheel off. Super important. Okay, and then we pour from the sides. Now, some of you are going to forget this, but we do all of our major cleaning over here. We don't go to the sinks. So from here, I'm going to come in and I'm going to wipe this down with a sponge. And the goal for cleaning is to make it so the next person doesn't feel like they've been throwing for an hour when they just sat down. So my definition of clean is no major puddles of water, no big chunks of clay. I'll put that in there. And then we're going to wipe this out. Now, if your sponge gets really dirty, again, you're not going to take this over to the sink, but you can take your sponge over there and wipe it out. I am not going to spend a lot of time cleaning this. You know what clean is. That is not clean. Okay? So if you leave it like that, I'll be like, clean it some more. But I'm not going to because I'm just going to use it. Big chunks of clay that are on your wheel head or on your wheel, they're going to get set all this clay through all this clay last class. Be extra careful with your tools. That would suck if that got put in here. So you're going to take all this. I call this dry clay. Okay, it's clay that is not really wet. It's not slip. You're going to set it over in one of these bins, and we'll recycle it. Okay? Now, this is really wet clay. It's really slippy, and at the bottom there's chunks of clay. So we're going to come over to the sinks. So let's get past you here. And you're going to strain it. You don't just dump it. You're going to strain it with your fingers. It's okay that the water goes in there, but it's not okay that big chunks of clay go in there. Okay, and then when you get to the bottom, you're going to see that there's clay in there. This recycle bin over here is for wet clay. So, as you watch this, this is wet, okay? It's okay that this is in there, but from here on out, we're going to put big stuff over there, big and dry. We're going to put wet stuff over here. We're just going to pour that out. Be mindful that you've already taken out your tools. And so this goes in here, okay, wet stuff. Now, when you're done cleaning, your bucket, just rinse it out real quick, either goes right here, it does not go here, or back on your wheel, and I don't care which one. we either stack them right here or we put them back on the wheel. If everybody leaves their buckets out like this, then we'll have 15 buckets sitting around and it just becomes kind of a nightmare. So do some of the things that I ask, will make our lives easier. Now, let's finish cleaning up and I'll come back. So, other things, we talked about this the other day. When we scrape off a wheel, we use wood tools. I like to scrape this while it's spinning. We don't use our metal tools to scrape, okay? You will create problems on the wheel. And you come in with your big sponge and you wipe that down. So that wheel head looks good. No big puddles of water, no big chunks of clay, right? Tools, just give them a quick wipe. There will be some tool holders. We'll kind of go from there. For some reason I collected a whole bunch of tools today. Wire tools. This is a wire tool with handles. I actually put those up there by the window. We'll have a bunch of non-handled wire tools around for you to use. Okay. Now, back to the wheel. This is the wheel head, okay? It spins clockwise and counterclockwise. I'm right-handed, so it goes counterclockwise. You worked with the switches. The first one goes up, the second one goes all the way. If it comes in the middle, it's neutral, does nothing. If it comes all the way towards me, it's going clockwise, and that's usually how left-handers will do it. You don't have to. You can do it the way I show you, or whatever. Okay, but we'll talk about why we have it spinning this way here in just a second. So all this out here is called the deck, and the deck needs to be cleaned up. So there's some chunks here, and if you have dry stuff like this, you can either put it in your bucket, and that'll make it wet, or you can just chuck it in the garbage. Please don't ever put really, really bone dry stuff in those buckets over there. I have to pick at it to get it to recycle, and it's kind of a pain. So if you ever scrape off your table, it goes in the garbage, not in those buckets. Okay, so for the most part, this wheel is clean. Now, this is not. Okay, you need to clean that a little better, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to use it. So the next thing you need to know is when this goes back on, you see these little kind of pads here? Okay, they're going to go, and you got to tilt this up and shimmy under. There's a little bar, the compression bar that it fits under. If you just take it and put it on, it's going to be loose like this, and that's no good. So it tilts up. So if you're like, this isn't going on, I'm going to tell you, pull it out, tip the round part up to your chin, and kind of shimmy that into place. The big one goes on in front of you. The other one pops on. There's little tab buttons on the underside, and these just go right into them. They'll just pop into place. So if you put this one on right, that one will just pop right into place. If you're struggling with it, don't stress. Ask your neighbor if they got it right. They can help you. They can come over and help you. It's really not that big of a deal. Okay. All right. That's going to go over there. So the wheel head, splash pans, the pedal is a variable speed. You figured that out the other day. It goes fast to slow or slow to fast. If you do have problems with it, sometimes water gets in the plugs, and they're GFCI outlets, so they'll pop, and we can reset those, so it's not a big deal. Every wheel is going to be slightly different when it comes to how it functions. Every pedal, like this one, I start to press and it doesn't go, and then all of a sudden it goes, and then it goes pretty fast, pretty quick. So there's not a big medium there. So I just have to be careful not to slam this down for it to go. Okay, let's practice how we're going to start our day. So you're going to wedge up some clay. For you, start with one chunk, cut it in two. Okay, a lot of times you'll just split that with a buddy. That way you don't have to put it in a bag, and then you can just wedge up some more, cut it in two, and just keep doing that. So we have our clay, and then we're going to fill up our buckets. You need to fill it up 2/3 to 3/4 full. Not all the way full, but if you only have this much water, it's a problem. Because you have to reach all the way in to get water. Plus, your water's going to turn to slip really quick. So you don't want that. At the beginning of the class, though, you're going to be like, there's tons of people over here trying to get water. If you do this, okay, and you set that there, I really don't have a problem with that. But you've got to pay attention, because if this spills, you're going to create a mess. Now, for everyone else, let's say I did that and I went and talked to a student and I'm not paying attention. Oh, this one got full. It scared me for a second. And I'm not paying attention. It's starting to get full, and I'm over there, and you just see this. Just come over here and turn the water off. Okay? And if you want to be like Jones, you left your water on, feel free to call me out. It is just fine. But full. You want to make sure your bucket is full. You want to have a bucket. You don't want to share with somebody. There are enough buckets for everyone. If you don't find one, come find one that has two. Maybe somebody didn't put it away. Maybe there's some over there. You know, all that good stuff. Okay. Now, we have our clay. So this is 3 pounds. I'm going to cut this in half to make it 2 pounds, or sorry, 1.5 pounds. Cut that in half. Set that there. Tools you need. You need at least a sponge. You need a wood knife and or a wood rib. For cylinders, a wood knife. For bowls, a wood rib. You need a wire tool, but not everybody needs a wire tool, so if there's 3 wire tools back here, you'll be fine. You need a needle tool. Okay, same thing with needle tools. You don't need it all the time. You need a sponge all the time, and you're going to need a wood knife, about, you know, whatever. You can share those. Yeah, that's all the tools you need. So, you're going to come back here. You have your chunk of clay. The first thing I do is I turn my wheel on. Oh, it's not working. It's turned off. Is I turn that on and I check it. I don't put my clay down. I check my wheel. And it's really important because I want to know what it's going to do. Is it turning on? Is it not turning on? Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the clay down here and pat it into place. Okay. I'm going to do this really quick, then I'm going to come back to it. So, and I'm going to talk through it. So I pat it into place, I add some water, my elbows get tucked in, my hands push down, and I seal it up. Then I'm going to cone it up, so I'm going to push in at 7 o'clock, catch it with my knuckles at 1, I'm going to push down with my thumb right back by center, my pinky on center. I'm going to refine it so that it's centered. I'm going to open it. My fingers are always going to be touching each other so that I'm nice and controlled. I'm going to pull the, I'm going to true out my rim. I'm going to pull and open this again. So I open it down. I'm going a little fast. I'm going to open it out. I'm going to clamp at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Thumbs are going to touch. I'm going to push into my index finger, and I'm going to lift that up. My index finger doesn't reach to the bottom anymore, so I'm going to push into my middle finger. I'm going to lift that distributing the clay. I'm going to use my rib to compress the clay and clean it up. Round side goes to a flat or indented side. Flat side goes if it was curved out. So I'm going to use my round side. That compresses the clay and cleans it up. You take the water out of the bottom. And then I'm going to use my wood knife to trim up the bottom just a little bit. And we've now made a cylinder. Now there's a little bit of shape to this, but it's perfectly fine for a cylinder. You're going to take a wire tool. You're going to cut that. And we're going to look at it. Okay, and that was a quick cylinder. So I'll slow it down on the next one, but I promise. When you are doing this, it's super important that you cut these. You can cut these and show them to me, and I can tell you exactly what you're doing right and wrong on your throwing. Okay? The thing I'm looking for, first, thickness of the bottom. There's a little bump on this one. It's okay for a mug. Second, and we want that to be about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. Second thing I'm looking for is, are the sides even? So does this thickness straight across measure that thickness? If it doesn't, you're not centered. The next thing I'm looking for is the pull. Is it a nice even transition up, or does it go thick, thin, thick, thin? And you can bring this to me and I won't even be back here watching you throw, and I can talk about what you need to do. Then from there, I think how thick it is. If it's really thick, you could have pulled up more. Some of these, we're going to trim them in. Okay. So let's go back and do that slower. So when you have your clay, the wheel head should be dry or barely damp. I know on some of your videos they say wet it. This is what they're saying. Like just the tiniest bit. This is what we hear. Okay, if I were to slap this down, it's not going to stick. Okay, and now I have to dry this out. Some people. Clean this off. I don't have many towels. You can use paper towels. But I want this to stick. I don't want it to slide around. So when I say don't add water, I kind of mean it. And the reason for that is our clay is wet enough that when it goes down, it'll start to stick. Now, if you look on this wheel here, do you see how dry that is? Versus mine. Mine's a darker gray. That's a very light. That's probably a little too dry. So you would want to come in and add a tiny bit of water to that. But again, when I mean tiny, I really just mean like tiny. You don't need much. The water in the wheel head, so when there's some on the surface, helps the clay to stick. So next, once I get that down, I need to have water on it. And it's really important that I'm not trying to do this dry. If I try to do it dry, I'm going to rip the clay right off. So the next thing I do, my stool comes all the way forward. It's touching my wheel. If you're way back, you're going to be extended and you're going to be very weak. We want to use the core, our core body and our upper body, to hold this clay and kind of work this clay. So I'm going to start my wheel. It's going counterclockwise, and it's not going to be going super fast, but it's not going to be going super slow. So right here in the middle, water, my thumbs are going to touch. I'm going to push straight down on the middle. There's no pushing other than straight down right now. Push straight down. It's going to push into my hands, and then I'm going to wrap my pinkies around the edge at the bottom. Anytime I feel like I'm grabbing too much clay, I just do this. I don't stop my wheel, just lift up. If there's ever a problem with your clay, it's your hands, not the wheel. The wheel's fine, right? The wheel's still going round and round, just like it should. It might be going a little fast, but your hands are the problem. Now, some of you saw this, where they came in and they pushed down at the bottom with one finger. Perfectly acceptable. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not the way I like to do it. I like to come in here, push down. That helps to create more suction and adhesion, and then I wrap my pinkies around the bottom. Now, the reason we seal up, if I don't seal up and I add water down here, and then I push on it, that water is going to come underneath and lift up our clay. And we don't want that. So next thing, so that's called sealing. Elbows are down, they're locked into my hips, into my rib cage. Nice and tight here. Next thing I'm going to do is, anyone remember what they said to do next? Say that loud. Cone it. Is that what you were saying? Yeah. So we're going to cone it. We're going to turn it into a cone. So I'm going to push this in. It's going to start to lift. The great thing about clay is whenever I do something to it, it's got to react. So I push in. My left hand is coming in at 7 o'clock. Here's 6, there's 7. My right hand is going to come with my knuckles at about 1:30. Okay? And I'm going to push to my knuckles. I'm not going to push to my fingers, and I'm not going to push here. Some people like to push there. I like to push to my knuckles. I push in, I'm going to grab, and then I'm going to squeeze. That clay lifts like that. And then I get to the top and I hold steady by rolling my thumb over. And this is called coning. With a little piece of clay, you don't need to cone very far. Okay, it doesn't need to be super thin. I'm then going to bring it down, or I like to call it coning down, which is silly because I'm not turning it into a cone. But my left thumb, if this is center, my left thumb is right off of center. My hand is going to be touching my thumb. My right hand is going to come and pointing from 6 o'clock to the center mark, touching my thumb. I'm going to be touching, and I'm going to start to push down. Elbows are down. I'm going to push down. And that clay is going to move, and it's moving out. And my left hand is going to contain the clay. Do you remember I've said that containment is a word I'm going to use a lot? If you don't remember it, remember it. So I'm going to push down. I'm containing the clay. The shape of my clay is the shape of my hand. So my thumb is creating that shape. My right here through that pad of my hand is creating the side shape. Okay, I get down to the bottom. I'm going to refine it just a little bit by pushing in, pushing down. Always adding just a little bit more water, and then I slowly let go. Now, a couple of things you need to focus on from the very start. Sealing it is the most important thing, because if it's not sealed, it's going to go flying off. Second, you're always going to keep a consistent speed. We're going to want to be like slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. And it's like when you first started to learn to drive, right? And your mom or dad or whoever is just like, holy crap. Like, no. My kids didn't do that. They were so good at driving. Just kidding. They weren't. Actually, my boys were really quite good. But what am I talking about? Oh, clay. We're going to talk about clay for a minute. So, clay likes, on the wheel, even hand building, it likes to be approached kind of gently. If I come in here and I just push that, it's going to wobble. Okay, so here's an example. If I come in here and press right there, it creates a thumbprint, correct? You see that? right? But if I come and do the same pressure, but all the way around, that's what a thumbprint looks like in 360 degrees. Okay, so I'm not hitting it, I am pressing on it, and as I do that, that pressure does something to the clay and it moves it one way or the other, up, out, in. So if I want this to push down, I hold steady. If I just come in and hit it, it creates a big mark. So clay does not like to be pressed quickly. And on the wheel, it likes to be pressed uniformly. So again, if I come in here and just hold, the clay does something, and it does it pretty much in a 360 degree pattern, whatever that is. Now that's a problem, because there's an air bubble. And what we're gonna learn is how to do it quicker and quicker and quicker. Okay, so I'm gonna open this. By opening, I'm going to take my thumb, elbows are down, I'm going to push into the center like this. I create this little knob, and that knob is center. I don't like to start on center, because then I tend to wobble, but I'll come right off of center, creating a little knob, and then I know where I can push into. So then I'm going to create this little scoop. Thumb, index finger goes on my thumbnail, and then middle finger goes next to. And then I bend my fingers, and it's a really good scoop where I can scoop straight down into the center there. Okay, I get down to the bottom, and I'm gonna stop my wheel. I'm gonna measure. Oh, I went a little thin. That's pretty thin, but it's okay. Even if I went all the way through, that's all the way through, I can see the metal, we'll still work with it. You're still just practicing. So I push down, now I'm gonna pull towards me. Ring finger, middle finger, thumb. Always make sure there's plenty of water. I'm gonna squeeze towards my thumb. Remember, clay doesn't like to be jerked. It likes to be pulled slowly or pushed slowly. Now again, my bottom's open, so there's no bottom to this, which is fine. You can still do all of this. Next thing is I'm going to true out my rim, and what that means is, you see how it's a little bit wobbly? I'm going to hold with my left hand, I'm going to push down with my sponge. I'm going to move that in nice and slow to the middle, and then pull it back out. And do you see how that stopped wobbling? Because I'm telling the clay, I'm going to contain you so that you line up to me. That's all I'm doing, is telling the clay, you need to line up to me. All right, I'm going to come over here. Left hand is going to drop straight down. All my fingers on the inside, thumb on the outside. I'm at 4:30, 5 o'clock. My thumbs are going to touch. I'm going to push in and lift up. Remember, clay has to go somewhere, and the wheel is helping that move, and we're just helping to push it in and up. And remember, clay goes where you want it to go. So when it dies, you're going to come in here and figure out what's next. It's a little wobbly, but if you just push on that clay, you're going to learn how that clay moves. And something I want you to focus on right now, my hands are together. Super important. If my hands are separate, I'm going to be all over the place, and the clay is going to be like, what do you want to do here? Stupid clay. No, my hands are the problem. Remember I said that? It's not the wheel. not really the clay, it's my hands. Okay, let's grab another chunk of clay. Because guess what? This is gonna happen to you, and you're gonna grab another chunk of clay. You're gonna wedge it up, you're gonna cut it, you're going to put it on your wheel, making sure that it's mostly dry, not soggy. Cut that in half because we only need 1.5 pounds-ish of clay. Set that there. And that's a little more clay than 1.5 pounds. Gonna tap it into a ball. Anyone want to guess why I tap it into a ball? Or a semi-ball, it's like a semi-flat ball. So we wedge to get the air bubbles out. Because this has been sitting, this helps to kind of warm it up. Remember when we tapped our clay on the table? Same sort of thing. Now I know in some of your videos, they said, don't have a round bottom when you put it down. They said have a flat bottom. I'm not a big fan of the flat bottom, and the reason for that is flat bottoms trap air. Okay, but a round bottom is going to pinpoint there, and then I'm going to smack that down, and now at the very base where it's touching, it's sealed up. But if it's a flat bottom and you slap that down, you can actually bend upwards and trap air into there, and that can be a problem. Okay, so that's tap down. First few days you're on, things I'm going to tell you a lot about. Elbows in. If your elbows are out here and you're floating around, you're going to have some problems. So elbows in. Next, tap it down. Some of you will be like, right? No, get that down there. Third, fourth, something is more water. Once you get it down and you're going to seal it up, you always want more water. So my hands are going to touch. I'm going to wrap it around. If you start to get a lot of clay on your hands, reach up there. Don't stop your wheel. Just reach up there with one hand and add some water. You can also use your sponge. Sometimes I put my sponge in my hand so I can just squeeze water out. So I got that sealed up. So step, put it down, tap it down, add some water, turn your wheel on. Something I didn't cover. Don't touch your clay and then start the wheel. If I'm grabbing this clay and then I start my wheel, the clay moves to me, and if I'm not centered, the clay is going to go flying off. So always start your wheel, then touch your clay. Now I sealed it. Now I'm going to cone it. So I'm going to push in with my left hand at 7 o'clock. See how that starts to move up? My thumb is usually over the top, and what that does is it helps it so it doesn't get all crazy. It kind of keeps it uniform. I'm going to come on the other side, and I'm going to squeeze and lift up. Now, here's a thing about pressure. Pressure needs to have more at the bottom, medium in the middle, and very little at the top. Because if I have a lot of pressure at the bottom, and I keep that lot of pressure up, it's going to pop the top right off. Okay. Now this brings me to this. There are 6 things. So, pull that up, pull this down. I'm not going to stress too much about that right now. There are 6 things that you've got to focus on to make your wheel throwing more efficient and better. And they're variables, so it's like an equation. And the wheel is an equation. Anyone want to guess what one of those variables is? Anyone? What? Wheel speed. Wheel speed is a variable. The faster you go, the less pressure you have to put on your clay to get it to move until you get to this certain point, and then all of a sudden the wheel's like, that was too much pressure, too much speed, and I'm going to fly off. So I can put less pressure at a lower speed, more pressure at a lower speed or less pressure at a faster speed. You want to find that medium. So wheel speed. The next is a variable, and it's water content. When we first put our clay on the wheel, how much water? 0, right? Very little. But as soon as we go to seal it up, how much water? A lot. So your clay, once it's sealed, should always look shiny. So wheel speed and water content. The next one you always have to focus on is your body position. Where is it at? So elbows in, they're going to be in my hips, they're going to be up in my rib cage, they're going to be stable. My stool is all the way up. I like to keep my back nice and straight, and my nose is right above that center mark. That's for centering. Now, body position also includes hand position. So when I'm coning, I'm right here, pushing at 7, catching with my knuckles at about 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I cone that up. When I cone down, my left hand comes to the side, my left thumb is right off of center, my right hand comes and hits that center mark touching my thumb. And I'm going to push down. Now, do you see this shape? That shape comes from right there on my hand. So I'm going to press that down. So wheel speed, water content, body position. Okay, how many things did I tell you there were? Awesome. Okay, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to put my thumb right off of the center mark, creating that little knob. Add some water. I'm going to put my thumb, index finger on my thumbnail, middle finger next to it. And I'm going to push in. Now, if anyone has nails, you're going to do the same thing, but just push through your sponge. You're going to push in and down. So wheel speed, water content, body position. Really, there should be 7 things. I think I'm going to change it to 7. I just thought about this just now. Okay, wheel speed, water content, body position. Always, once you start opening it up, always, always, always take the water out. Okay, I'm going to tell you you're going to add water back in and make it shiny, but you have to take the water out every time. And the reason for that is if we let the water sit at the bottom, it will soak in. And then when we start to lift this and move this, the clay is going to be kind of sloshy. And we don't want it sloshy. We want it to move through our hands, but we don't want it sloshy. So wheel speed, medium right now. Water content, I had it wet, but I just took the water out. So the next thing is body position. And I'm going to pull towards me, because that's my step. I push down, I'm going to pull towards me. So I'm going to add some water. Ring finger, middle finger, I'm going to pull towards my thumb. And then I'm going to stop right there. I didn't jerk the clay, I just kind of slowly let that come to me. Going to take the water out. Why do we take the water out? So it doesn't get sloshy. Second reason why we take the water out is if we leave water in the bottom, then we cut it off and it's drying. If there's excess water at the bottom, the clay particles are open like this and you get cracks in the bottom of your piece. So we're going to practice this so that we don't get cracks in the bottom of our piece. All right, wheel speed, water content, body position, which again includes what your body's doing, but also your hands and your eyes, like where you're at. The next thing that is a variable, pressure. What did I say about pressure being at the bottom? How much? A lot. So my body is locked in. My hand is going to come right here at 5 o'clock, 3, 4, 5, it's like 4:30. My thumbs are going to touch, and I'm going to push in. I have to get that clay moving so it's a decent amount of clay, and I'm going to pinch and lift, and then I'm going to roll my hand inward. So wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure. Body position also includes stability. One thing that you'll do, because you won't know what you're trying to accomplish, is you'll be like this. You'll be like, maybe not that dramatic, but pretty close. And then look what happened. Because I was telling the clay, I really don't know what I want to do with you. But if I hold steady, I can get the clay to go where I want it to go. I can get it to move where I want it to move. Well, that wasn't right, but close enough. Okay, wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure. Do you see how this is an equation, a variable thing? Pressure depends. The less clay you have, the less firm you can press, because you're gonna rip right through it. The more clay you have, like when you're centering it, you can add more pressure to it. So wheel speed, water content, body position. Let me clean this off here. And grab that other chunk of clay. Put that in the middle. See how it's starting to already suck down, that's good. And then there is some water on there, but if it's too much, it's gonna slide. Tap that, going to start the wheel, add some water, elbows in, and push straight down, a lot of pressure, straight down. Pinkies are gonna wrap around the sides, and I'm containing that clay. I'm holding it. Now I'm going to cone it up, so I'm gonna push in and catch, wheel speed. It's usually a little higher. Wheel speed, water content, should be shiny. I'm gonna bring this down. My body position right here is thumb comes right off of center, my right hand comes right into center, but my hands are touching. Super important that your hands touch. If not, you're just gonna kind of float around. So I'm gonna lift this up a little more so I can demonstrate something. If I just push down, see how wobbly that gets? Okay. But if I come here and hold, and then when I push down, you see how controlled I can make it? Okay, so we're working together. Containment hand, pressure. I'm gonna push down. Get to the bottom. If it's still wobbly, we're going to refine it by pushing it in a little bit and pushing it down, in, and down. And then we're gonna open it. So you think to yourself, what do I need to do to open it? Elbows in, water, create a little knob with my thumb. Finger goes on my thumbnail, middle finger goes next to it, creating a little scoop. I bend my fingers because crazy enough, bent fingers are stronger than straight fingers. So straight fingers tend to be weak, bent fingers you can hold in place. I'm going to push that into the center and then straight down. If I start to dry it out or stick, I take my hands out, I add some water because my water content wasn't right, and then I'm going to push that straight down. Get to where I think the bottom is, not the wheel head, but where I want the thickness. And then I'm going to stop my wheel. I'm going to measure. And it looks like I have 1/4 of an inch, which is good. 1/4 of an inch looks like this. So if it's that thick or it's just slightly thicker, you're doing great. If it's twice as thick, you're still probably fine. If it's a lot thinner, next time don't push as far down. Okay, I'm just going to seal up that hole by pressing on it. Now, what do I do next? Anyone want to remind me?
Squeeze it.
Towards me, right?
Yep.
So this is opening down, this is opening towards me. So I add some water, my ring finger and middle finger go in there, my thumb goes on the outside. And I'm just going to gently squeeze towards my thumb. My thumb is not pushing, it's just holding there. And I just gently squeeze that towards my thumb. And I come out far enough, and I take my water out, right? Because that's super important so we don't get sloshy S-cracks. Okay, wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure, rule of thumb. Bottom is more pressure. Middle is usually medium pressure. And up at the top is usually very light pressure, although you're still holding steady. Now, to my favorite part of the day, my wife gets a cake that I do this. And you will love it as well. So, we open it towards us, and now we're going to start to lift this up. And your interpretation of how this works is going to be all over the place. And it's really quite humorous. But we're going to be at 5-ish, 4:30, 5 o'clock. My left hand is going to be on the inside. My thumbs are always on the outside, both thumbs. My thumbs are going to touch. And it's like I have these little wings here, and I'm going to be pushing into my index finger, so they're pushing together. Okay, so everyone do this. Put your thumbs together. Okay, because we're the eagles, these are eagles, right? So here's your wings, flap those suckers. No, get those hands up there, come on. All of you, way high. Okay, and I'm gonna dive down, and it goes like this. So you're gonna all practice that with me, you ready? Again. You guys are very quiet. Let's do that really loud. Okay. One more time. Not me at all. Go. I like that. Okay. So, thumbs touch. That adds stability. If you ever go into the dental field, they call that a fulcrum or a resting point, so a pivot point. You're going to clamp over, and then we're going to push in. Now, if you look at my clay, it looks really dry, so I'm going to add some water. Do not grab this clay while it's stopped. I'm going to start my wheel. Going to add some water. So, right, drops down here. On the outside, my index fingers are going to be straight across from each other, not way up here, but straight across. And I'm going to push in, so I'm a little pinch, push in, and start to lift that up. Decent amount of pressure, medium pressure, very light pressure. I like to do it through a sponge. Makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to push in, squeeze, and lift up. It's really important that as we get to the top here, we push inward. And then let off slow. Now, how many of you have ever shot a rubber band? Right? You hold it like this, and everyone goes like this, right? I should have a rubber band to do that. Right? And you kind of flinch because you know it's coming at you. So clay is like a rubber band. As I'm pushing on it, it has that elasticity, right? Or plasticity is what we talked about. Now, if you take that rubber band and slowly take the stretch or the energy out of it, does it go flying? No, it just kind of comes back to its normal shape. The same thing with the clay. If I'm pushing on it, do you see how far I'm pushing that clay? If I let it go, it wobbles. If I let it go fast. But if I'm pushing on it and let it go slow, it doesn't wobble. So if I'm pushing on it and I let it go fast, it wobbles. If I hold it and let it go slow, it doesn't wobble. It's really important to practice that. It's a lot like when I said, don't hit your clay, right? If you want to make a mark, hold your fingers in that spot for a long time. Okay. Now, something that's going to happen for you, if your fingers aren't directly across from each other or you're having too much pressure. Remember, a lot of pressure, medium pressure, very light pressure. Let's say you keep medium pressure all the way to the top. You get to the top, it's starting to get thin. The clay can't support your pressure and you're going to cross and it's going to give you this. So when this happens, it just means you have too much pressure. Okay, let's get another piece of clay on here. No, let's not. So, as you're working, you're going to mess up. You're going to have failures, and that's fantastic. If you're not having failures, you're not pushing the clay far enough. When things happen, clay comes off. Instead of just pushing this off and starting over, think about what happens when you just press and hold. When you start to work with a little bit of clay. Okay, my hands are touching, they're holding together. What happens when you push on the clay? Experimentation is going to be huge for your understanding. And then it breaks off again. Instead of getting rid of that, press on it. See what you can do with the clay. And then when that breaks off, see what you can do with the clay. Because remember, this is an equation. So if I'm using very little amounts of clay, I still have pressure, I still have water content, I still have speed, I still have my body position. I've just got to change it so I don't go crazy through my pieces. Got a little shape there. Pull that in. Something like that. Let's just go ahead and cut that off because that's semi-cute. Whoa, never mind. Nice. Okay, well, guess what we do now? Anyone want to guess? We get a new piece of clay. We still have 22 minutes. I love the smell of clay so much. It makes me happy. Okay, I'm going to go with a bigger chunk right now. Just because it seems like the right thing to do. I'm going to push down on it. You don't need to move to big clay quickly. You need to get all the other things kind of in line. So wheel speed, medium, medium fast. Water content, once I got it down, plenty of water. You should always have plenty of water. Pressure, I'm putting a lot of pressure on that to get that to move. But as I get to the top, I've got to reduce my pressure. Okay, wheel speed, water content, body position. On this one, I'm going to be pushing down. Oh, that clay wanted to split right off. I guess I'm only using half the clay. Push that in, push that down. I'm not throwing it in, I'm just holding and pressing. So a couple of things that will happen. So wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure. Knowing your steps is the next one. Okay, so you've got to remember the steps the best you know how. Seal it, so pat it down, seal it, cone it down, open it up, or refine it, then open it up, open it towards you. Throw your eagle down there and start to lift up. Those are the basic steps, okay? Okay, we're going to open this up. I'm going to push into the center and then down. So the very last one, the number 7, is practice. And I don't know why it's taking me so long to remember that should be one of these. So I'm going to pull this towards me. Practice. Wow, that got wobbly. So I'm going to compress this. I'm going to push it in. There's almost always a fix to your problem. Sometimes it's starting over, but sometimes that's the best fix actually. So wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure. Know the steps. Practice. How many is that? How many things is that in this variable? You sure? Count them again. Wheel speed. Say it with me. Water content. Body position. Pressure. Knowing the steps. And practice. There are 7. I did not. I'm not that person. Like, I can make 21 out of my hands, you know. No. Just kidding. If you do that, good for you. I'm going to grab another piece of clay. This piece of clay and I don't like each other right now. So everything has a part of this. Wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure, knowing your steps, and practicing. Let's use one of these. It's a big chunk of clay. Let me tell you about the project that you're going to do on the wheel. So, in 3 or 4 days on the wheel, you're going to come back here. So next Wednesday, some of you will be on the wheel. Well, that's wobbly. Some of you are going to be on the wheel. Some of you are going to be hand building. You're going to spend 3 or 4 days. I can't decide. I'll tell you later. But you're going to spend 3 or 4 days doing your plates and some other things. 3 or 4 days on the wheel. And when you're on the wheel, your job is to follow the steps. Follow that equation the best you can. Is to run through clay, is to mess up, and is to play around, is to see what your hands do. So, and there's nothing to be turned in other than a photo. And the photo will be a cut piece so that I can tell kind of what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to open this. So, a couple of things I want you to think about for a second. One is you can push yourself as hard as you want and get really good in this semester. It's not a requirement. There's some things we'll have you do. I'm going to pull this towards me. Squeeze that towards my thumb. Gets a little wobbly there. There we go. And take the water out, compress the bottom. So you're going to turn this in by photograph, but we're not going to save them. We'll save some stuff on hand building. When we get to next semester, though, it's really important that you've spent some time, sorry, not next semester, next term, that you've spent some time on the wheel and pushed yourself as far as you can because you will have a project due. But this first little bit, if you have just a bunch of stuff like this, and you know at the end you have a little something, you'll be fine. We'll talk about it. But we're going to spend 4 days, 3 or 4 days, on the first rotation, while the others are doing the hand built. Then we're going to switch. We'll spend 3 or 4 days. Again, I don't know exactly what that time frame looks like. We'll spend 3 or 4 days sorry, I had to concentrate. Doing that. And then we'll learn a new hand built project. So the first one will be plates, or a plate. The second one will probably be mugs. So we'll learn how to make mugs. And then you'll make a mug or two. So back to this. Let's say you start on hand building, you're going to start plates next week. You go 3 or 4 days, then you come and do wheel thrown while the others go and make plates. And then we're going to go and we're going to learn how to make mugs. So you're going to make mugs in the 3 days or however many days we decide it's going to take. And that other group comes back and works on the wheel again. And at the end of that session on the wheel, they're going to be making 5 to 6 inch cylinders. They're going to be cutting them in half. They're going to be turning them in by photographs so that I can see what you're doing. And then we'll switch again. So if you just finished up your mugs, then you're going to come back and spend again 3 days. So this term, you'll make a plate and a mug, hand building, and you're just going to be learning how to throw on the wheel. Next term, we'll do another 1 or 2 hand-built projects, and then we'll be making bowls, bottles, or vases on the wheel. The whole time, there will be some other instruction, there will be some one-on-one help, and we'll just kind of work through it. The way I've designed how we do this, most of you will get it in the 6 to 7 days on the wheel. Maybe all of you, but most of you for sure will get it good enough to move on. Some of you might struggle a little bit more, and that could be lots of reasons. We'll worry about that when that time comes. Remember last class period when you got on the wheel and there was little instruction, and some of you had watched your videos, some of you hadn't, and you just kind of did. When you get on the wheel next, you're going to probably see an immediate improvement. You already had some time on the wheel, now you have some more instruction, and then you're going to spend some more time on the wheel. So it won't be your first time trying to get clay stuck. It won't be your first time trying to get it sealed. It won't be your first time adding water, right? So every time we spend, and that's where the practice comes in, every time we spend doing more and practicing, you're adding to your bank of knowledge, and it's just going to work out better for you. Okay. No, there really was a sixth one. We skipped it. You want to know what it is? No one cares? Okay. Anyone want to know what the sixth one is? Because there was 7 total. Yes. Wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure, knowing your steps. The last one is practice. You got to put it all into practice. The sixth one is something that I can only talk about. I can't actually do anything about it. And the sixth one is all you. And the sixth one is what's going on in your head. I can talk to you about being positive. I can talk to you about all kinds of things, but you've got to implement it. So when we're doing wheel speed and you're back here and it's going super slow, I can come over and I can say, this is probably the better speed, right? I can speed it up. If you're touching your clay and it's just ripping off, I can be like, hey, maybe we need to add some more water. If it's ripping at the top, I can be like, hey, your hands are here and your pressure is too much, or something like that. So that was body position and pressure. I can talk about steps. I can be like, you skipped a step, right? I can show you that, and I can tell you to practice. But if you're back here and you're struggling, it's really important that you give yourself a break. It's really important that you don't judge yourself by somebody else. Somebody else, and you probably saw this last time, will pick it up quicker than you did. Don't stress about that. Somebody else, it'll just make sense to just a little bit easier. Don't stress about that. Be nice to yourself, especially back on the wheel. When you say something like, I suck, has anyone said that? Did I answer? Let's say you suck. I'm going to say, of course you suck. You're brand new at this, right? Throwing clay, working with clay, and doing clay on the wheel specifically is a new thing for you. Think about somebody who's good at something. Someone you know, a professional. What came to mind? Somebody. We have a few minutes. I got kind of wobbly. Somebody that's good at something. What comes to mind?
You.
Oh, what am I good at? Oh, thanks. I thought you were going to say you're really good at riding your bike. We had so much fun last night on our bike ride. We went out to Mona and back, or almost Mona.
Is it about like 3 hours away in the car?
No. No, Mona from here out to Goshen and down is 22 miles.
Oh.
Well, we weren't here, we were in Payson, so it's 22. So it's about 30 miles from here. Okay, so I'm pretty good at pottery. I know people who are better, a lot better. They can do things with clay that I can only dream of, and it's pretty awesome. Now, when I go to workshops or talk to them or do stuff with them, I don't show up and go, well, that's it. I suck because you're so good. Okay? I have friends who've been doing clay for 30 years. And again, they do stuff with clay that just blows my mind. Oh, that's going to fall. And so the same thing goes for you. Think about somebody who does something good. Think about a sport, either someone we know here or someone else. We can call things talent. Let's say you're really good at soccer or really good at basketball. But anyone who's really good at something, or piano, or dance, anyone who's really good at something knows that there's a huge component in practice. There's another huge component in following the steps. And there's another huge component in what's going on in your head. Most people who are really good have control over their thoughts. They can control themselves so that if they mess up, they don't stress about it. They just go, whatever, I'll just implement whatever needs to happen to fix the problem. So, number 6 is what's going on in your head. So those 7 things, wheel speed, water content, body position, pressure, knowing the steps, knowing what's going on in your head and being positive about it, and practice. Super important. Those are the keys, in my opinion, to throwing on the wheel. If you can start to learn to master those things. But practice is the biggest one. But if you're practicing without thinking what you're trying to accomplish, you're going to have problems. Oh, that's a problem. When you get on the wheel next time, again, play around with the clay. Even red clay like this, see what happens when you speed up the wheel, when you add pressure. Whatever it is, you're gonna learn a lot through touch. Pull it out, whatever you're gonna do. Okay, we have just a couple minutes. What do we want to talk about? Oh, if I didn't say this, I'm pretty sure I did. There will be more demos. I'll do a quick demo on Wednesday. Now, for your first project, either hand building or wheel throwing, so Friday I'm doing a whole plate demo. Next Wednesday we're going to kind of start, I think, and I'll do a couple little quick things. For this first project, we're actually a week ahead of what I normally am in my ceramics classes, and it's because a week from Friday I'm taking off to Hawaii, so I'm going to leave you all here for a week. So it's going to be awesome. But you'll have plenty of things to do and plenty of time to get it done. And the great thing about clay, if you work, and we end up having a problem, we'll fix that problem. We'll solve the problem when I come back. It won't be a big deal. If you don't work, that's a problem. But so we're about a week ahead. Because the week after that is parent-teacher conferences. And usually the week of parent-teacher conferences is when we start our first project. But we're cruising, but it'll be good. Okay, do you have any questions, thoughts, comments? No? I'm telling you, implementing the basic techniques and the basic steps, and then playing around with clay, and not just playing around, but really kind of focusing in. Was I going too fast? Did I push my clay too fast? Whatever, will do so much to your learning process. So when you're back here, play around, enjoy it, it's fun, no stress. And the answer is no, you may not keep stuff, even if it's, super cute. But we will keep stuff. We'll learn to do it, and then we'll keep stuff. Okay, any questions? Sweet. We will see you Friday. Be ready start thinking about what kind of image you want on your plates so that you can put those on.